Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming, and welcome to another Horrible Gaming podcast. Thank you for choosing us. But we've got a kind of a special thing today. A few weeks back, I did a special interview show where I interviewed three of our most prominent and oldest community members, just so you guys could get to know some of the people you chat with and game with in Discord. That being said, we unfortunately need another week off this upcoming week. Well, this week. We just could not record. Too much going on with the holiday weekend and Neil's move. And of course, we didn't want to leave you hanging with nothing. So, what I decided to do is interview two of the two most important people to the channel. And that would be, obviously, the other Foundation members. And that would be Philbilly 330, the Buildmaster General, and then Neil, aka Tiny Wizard, my co-host himself. So hopefully you stick around. You sit back and enjoy the two interviews. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of this show, and I do like interviewing people. I think we're gonna keep doing this every time we need to take a week off because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me. So sit back, relax, and learn a little bit about the guys who work here on Old Man Gaming.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right. So my first guest on our special interview Foundation 4 show is, you guys know him. You love him. The Buildmaster General. He's not scared. He's never been scared. Philbilly 330.
Never gonna be scared. What's up, old man fam? Back again into the kind of podcast segment.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're doing an interview, and we're just trying to, do the foundation. Everybody liked the interviews when I did the fans last time, so I figured we'd do the foundation so people could get to know you wonderful fellow.
Oh yeah. There's so much to know.
It's gonna be kind of like Melissa, where I'm asking you questions and pretending I don't know the answer to them. So that everybody else gets
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to interview somebody when like known them for 15 years or something.
Right. We're up there now, man. We're up there. All right. Well, let's get into it, and I'm gonna open with what I like to open with everybody. So, go ahead and tell us about your first experience with gaming.
Oh, like first ever? It would
First
probably
ever.
be. I don't remember which came first. I do remember my first experience. My sister's, uh, Zach's wife, and my other sister are like 8 and 10 years older than me. So I was probably, I don't know, let's say 5 or something. And they had, at that time, I think it was the Commodore 60, or what was it called? It was like a
Commodore
computer
64.
looking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commodore 64.
And they had this game. They had 2 games, and it always made me upset because I didn't know how to read. And back then, it seemed like games weren't voiced at all.
Yeah.
And they had Where in the World is Carmen San Diego? And they had it was a game where like you were like a settler moving west.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah, Oregon Trail,
Yeah.
and I always like watched them play and wanted to play with them, but they wouldn't read to me. So that was like where my angst of video games started, I guess, back in the day.
This checks
and
out. This checks out.
But the first time I remember actually playing, I think I was like 8 or something, and they got a Super Nintendo for Christmas. So I actually remember playing like Super Mario Brothers, I
Yeah.
think was
Super
which
Mario
title that
World.
was. Yeah,
Super
yeah,
Mario
there you go.
World, the one with Yoshi.
And I think that was also the first game I ever beat. I did play in between there. I'd play a little bit of Duck Hunt and stuff, and I was so little that because that they had an Atari too that was like a
Hmm.
hand me down from somebody, and that had Duck Hunt, I believe. And I would play that, and I remember when I was little, like the ducks would fly off the screen, but I
Hmm.
thought like if I like got my face right on the screen and looked to the right, that be able to see them. Yeah, I wasn't the brightest bulb in the box, I guess, as like a 5-year-old or
I was
something.
about to say you're 5, man. My 5-year-old does really stupid stuff every day, so it's all right. I definitely will say if you can't read, Carmen, where in the world is Cameron San Diego is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it just looked fun, but
Yeah,
they were too cool to read to me.
this checks out. I've heard the stories of early tormenting. What was your Super Nintendo game of choice if you had to pick one?
Well,
Like,
Super Mario World was, I think, the first game I beat, and then I did get Super Metroid,
mm,
and I remember I liked that game, but I never beat it because there was like this weird, if I remember correctly, like as you progressed through that game, you would unlock like new suit abilities.
yeah, yeah.
And I somehow had got decently, well, what I remember being decently far into the game. And I somehow got to an area that maybe I didn't belong in yet. And I
Hmm.
fell down a hole. And to get out of this hole, you needed this suit upgrade that I didn't have yet. And I don't know why it let me get to the
Yeah,
area.
that is strange.
But so I couldn't get out of the hole. Like maybe I was young, so maybe I beat a boss or something and I got the suit upgrade, but I didn't pick it up or something
Mm,
stupid like that. Cuz I remember
mm,
when you'd get those upgrades, you would beat like a boss and then it would be on a pedestal or something if I
right.
remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it might have been too. You didn't realize you had it to use it.
It's very possible, or
Yeah.
I didn't know how to switch it on. I don't know, but I remember that I got frustrated, so I never beat that game. But so I think back then it was probably I would say Super Mario Brothers.
Okay. All right. What was your best experience playing games ever? Like in your life, your best experience playing games?
Um, it was actually it was I don't know if it was like a particular game. I remember we did it all the time with like Halo 2.
Okay.
But I remember going over I didn't have like the latest gen consoles, so I got to play them at my friends' houses and this was like what was Halo 2 regular Xbox, like the first Xbox maybe?
Yes. Yeah. 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 The Halo 1 and 2 were on OG, and then
Okay.
Halo 3 was the first 360 one.
But I remember kid across the street named Justin at the time, he had friends who had Xboxes, and we would have these like land
Mm,
land parties, and it was awesome. I mean, we were probably like I don't know, maybe 12 years old or 13 years old, but yeah, we would all go over his house and set up like 5 Xboxes and never go to sleep and just play in different rooms on different TVs. It was a lot of fun. Like that
that
was
was
like the most fun I remember having.
that those were epic. Kev Too Tall actually quoted that as one of his favorite moments in gaming. And I'm
And
I'm pretty sure Neil's gonna say the same thing too.
yeah, I wasn't even like necessarily very good at those games because I didn't have them, myself to practice, but
Right.
it was just fun.
Right, right. I mean, it is. It's just fun, especially when you just got a group of friends because you end up kind of in their skill range anyway. So,
Yeah.
and then yeah, yeah, those are always great. I love
And
those.
we've tried to do those like
Hmm.
we did something similar to that on a smaller scale with was it Borderlands 2 that or was it the pre-sequel that
We did it on
me
both.
and
We did
okay,
it on
yeah.
both. We did it on the
We got
on
like four
Borderlands 2.
people to come over and I brought a TV and
And
we set them up.
yep, all in the same room. And
Yep.
it was a lot of fun. We did it for two, and we did it for the pre-sequel. Was amazing because we played so late that people actually fell asleep that we could not
Playing, yeah.
progress. Yeah, we just like I would wake up and I was just running into a wall.
Yeah, my buddy at the time, Scott, was just like walking consistently into a wall because he fell asleep with his hand on the thumbstick.
Yeah, we had to call it when half of our members were falling out. Like it was like, all right, we're done now. It's got to be over.
It was fun too, though. It
It
was like
was.
trying to recreate some of the LAN party days
It
that
was.
no one's ever gonna experience. Like,
No,
you know,
that's something we talked about with. That's something we've talked about. Actually, I talked about it with Neil on a podcast that was lost. It's just one of those things that's kind of captured in time. Like nobody is ever really going to get to experience that again. It was kind of. I'm kind of thankful that we were in that zone to be able to live those moments. You know.
yeah. And they, I mean, it is cool having like the online capabilities for multiplayer now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's cool from the standpoint that I meet so many people that I kind of become friends with.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks is I never know if I'm actually going to meet them in real life because they're,
Right.
the other side of the country, basically.
Right. Right. You never know. You never know. I think that's one of the nicest things about being part of the community is we've got so many people now in our group that just we would have never been friends with, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So talking about friends, let's go to the net. Then my next question kind of segues perfectly with it. Who is your favorite person to play with? Like, who's your favorite person to like get on and play with?
Um, yeah, I have like whole groups that I love playing with, but I'd say like single person, um,
I mean,
that I
there's no
play
right
with
or
them
right
the most.
answer. There's no wrong or
Probably,
right answer.
probably, Filthy Phil that, you guys have, I'm sure, seen on the channel. Like, we play a lot of the same, type of games. He plays a little bit, some games that I'm not into, but for the most part, we have similar taste in games and we get along real well. And, even if it's just the two of us, there's, a lot of back and forth talking, even just about like what's going on at work or something. And what's funny about that is he lives in Florida. I've never even like met him in real life, but, yeah, like, I mean, obviously I play with you, but you play
Right.
so many different games
I do. I
that
do.
I don't play with you as much. But
Yeah.
yeah, Phil's probably like my, most played with, and then because of him, actually a lot of those guys I play Call of Duty with, they were his friends long before mine. So, I mean, most of them I met through him as well.
Well, and he's brought a lot of them into the channel too, which is nice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd have to say Filthy.
Okay, well, let's switch gears for a sec and just go into the OMG, the world of OMG, because you are a foundation member. And for anybody out there, just to clarify, because we throw it around a lot, but we haven't talked about what it is, and that is basically like obviously I started the station, it's my station, but the foundation people are the people who I could not make this station without, and that is you, and that is Neil. Logan used to be it. He's always an honorary member. He's not in it anymore, obviously, but
Yeah.
but yeah. So as a foundation member, you've been around for basically the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like give or
Other than the
take.
beginning where it was just you doing some like reviews and stuff, but yeah,
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
most part.
Right. I mean, like there was a couple of months, and I would actually say of all the foundation members still with us, you are the longest running foundation member. So, what is it? This is kind of a weird question. You can answer it any way you want. What does being a foundation member like? No, not a member. Like that makes it sound like you like put in money or something. But what is like being part of the foundation and being part of this channel? What does it mean to you, and how has it affected you, positively or negatively? There's no right or wrong answer to the question.
Um, well, okay, I'll just go at it a couple different ways.
Go for it.
So, what what I really like about it is I don't have. I don't know. I don't want to like make it sound like an excuse and say the time. Maybe it's a combination of the time or drive
Okay.
uh, to do this on my own.
Okay.
So because I bring some stuff to the table, and Zach can knows how to like edit and stuff like that, which I'm sure, as you've said a million times, I could learn. I just don't care to, I guess.
Right.
It allows me to get my points of view and, like, I guess if you want to call it my skill set as far as like the building aspects of games, like looter shooters and anything that has like build mechanics. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a looter shooter, but anytime you can make a loadout on a game, I really kind of lean towards those, and I like to dig deep
Mm-hmm.
into like kind of min maxing, uh, like damage output versus survivability and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So because you have the channel, it lets me like I always did that stuff in like Borderlands 2, and yeah, I would tell like Filthy and maybe like Sniper at the time, Sniper Hunter who's been on the channel as well.
Yes. Yes. Friend of the channel.
I would share my builds with like let's say 3 to 5 people, but now I get to share them with sometimes thousands, depending on the build, and that's really cool for me to see. Um, like some of those Borderlands 2 builds, they went up. I don't know. Didn't we have like a 30,000 view on one of my? Um,
I think if we go back to the Mandalorian flak, it's pretty up
yeah,
there. Like I haven't
yeah.
checked it in a while, but I'm pretty sure that beast is still rolling, which is crazy because I can't imagine that it hasn't been that it
It
isn't
can't be good anymore.
right. It's got to be out of date by this point with how much they
I mean,
buff and
maybe
nerf
you
in that
could,
game.
but even still, maybe people can take the bones of that build
Right.
and retrofit it to what's in the game now.
Right.
But yeah, like that's probably the coolest thing for me is just to see like genuinely other people get some. I don't want to sound like I'm helping them, but I guess in a way, giving them ideas and getting some of the positive feedback on that stuff that I've got. It makes you feel like oh, I am decent at this part, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's awesome. I'm very glad you guys haven't figured out how easy it is to edit stuff because then I would be absolutely useless to the station.
Like I said, it's not even. I just don't. I got a lot. Everybody does have a
Yeah.
lot going on in
Yeah.
life, and you just figure what's
It's
what's
what you
worth
can
it
do.
to you. Yeah,
Right, right. What you could do versus what's worth it to you. I totally get it. I totally get it. And it's much more beneficial to be in this kind of a relationship with the channel than having to do it all on your own, unless you were like just streaming. You know, um,
yeah,
I I will say it is a tedious work. I could say that. Easy or not, it could be a bit tedious sometimes.
yeah. And it's no. See, I'm not like super computer savvy as far as like the software, and like I've learned a lot about hardware. Through that was cool too when we got to build our computers, and I've actually helped other people build them, and I'm decent at that. But when it comes to like even something as simple as typing, I'm super slow. I just
Well,
it's not my forte.
you're helping me segue right into the next question because my next question was, we know that you're PC, and we know that you used to be Xbox, and we've touched on it a little bit here and there on the station, but right now is a perfect chance. What is it that made you say I'm going PC and I'm going to build it myself? Being a guy who isn't really computer savvy, no offense to you, but
No.
self-admitted.
Oh
Being a guy
yeah.
who isn't computer savvy, who had been basically lifelong Xbox, what made you go, I'm going PC, I'm going for the gold?
So I think with this new generation that was when it was transitioning. I mean, it is still transitioning because of the state of the world right now. But
Yeah, we could do 30 minutes on that alone. It's not worth it.
yeah, but so although I've been Xbox since I started my, I guess, truly owning consoles, because as mentioned earlier, like I didn't really own anything until 360. I had gotten it used. I don't have any allegiance to anybody, like Sony, PlayStation, or Xbox or Nintendo. None of that. I don't have any allegiance because I have a very cynical uh, view on the world. As in, I've just chalked it up to all these companies care about is making money. They don't care about me, so I'm gonna pick whatever my friends are on or whatnot.
Whatever's
And
best for you, really.
yeah, yeah. So what was nice about being on Xbox is I started to realize that if I did go PC, there were still a lot of opportunities for me to still play with people that I have met and enjoy playing with who are still on Xbox. So that kind of eased my attention on that, and I just got sick of the console war. I thought it was stupid. Um, uh, the fighting back and forth in the communities, and with the so what happened was I knew we didn't know prices on these
Hmm.
new consoles. We didn't for the longest
Yeah.
time, although we should have.
Yeah,
And
that was a big topic.
yeah, you had heard rumors with what the price of what they were packing into these things. You'd hear rumors of maybe $1,000.
Yeah.
Obviously, now we know they didn't end up being $1,000, but
I mean, with the
uh,
TV, if you had to upgrade.
yeah, very true. Yeah, because I don't have a 4K TV, so I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of these new console generations without buying a TV. So then, if you did the math there, even at $600 for the console, and what a good 4K TV is dang near $1,000, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So
and the kind that maxed out the Xbox Series X stats was even more expensive.
yeah, yeah. And then if you had to buy external hard drives that were proprietary, that gets
Right,
crazy.
right.
So although I'm not computer savvy, I am mechanically inclined. So I just started doing some research about how expensive is it to just get into PC and not have to worry about this stupid console war. And I started realizing that I could, if I did it myself, I could build a PC that was mid to upper mid level as far as what it was capable of, which is all I need personally, um, for between for right around between 800 and 1,200 bucks. So in my head, I was like, okay, so it is cost effective, and I just
Hmm.
for about a month, I just watched YouTube videos and reviews and stuff like that, and I decided I was gonna go for it. I put together my list and researched all that stuff for, like I said, about a month, and we just went at it.
Yeah, I attribute you also. While I attribute you to the PC run on OMG. Honestly, nobody on OMG or in our community was PC.
Other than Kev, yeah,
Yeah,
and
other
Kev
than Kev.
always
Yeah.
had been.
Well, and yeah, I guess I give credit to that. Kev will definitely call us out if I say you were first, but but yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
think your switching to it and your video showing everybody how easy it was definitely got me looking in that direction, and it definitely got Filthy and I think Sniper Hunter and a lot of other people looking at the PC a little bit more seriously.
yeah, some of the guys that I just play Warzone with, they would start asking me questions about it, and two other ones, Bar Sniper, I believe he ended up buying because of the difficulty of finding parts,
Yeah,
so he bought a pre-built, which actually surprisingly makes sense right now.
yeah.
And then his his son-in-law, I guess it would be Andrew. He ended up building his own. Somehow he got some real high-end equipment. But yeah, and they all asked me questions on how to do it, and I even walked some of them through it over the phone. Not that I'm like no master at it. We had to ask Kev some questions
We did.
when we did it the first time, but
And you can watch both those videos. Secret plug. You can watch both those videos on OMG. You could search for them. We built not only did I help Philbilly build his, but he helped me build mine, and they're both on there. And you can see just how easy it is to build them.
yeah, it's like adult Legos, I guess you
Yeah,
could call it.
yeah. It was actually a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun building both of them. Like I'm
Yeah,
almost excited when I get to upgrade. You know.
yeah, me too.
Okay, so moving on, I got a couple more questions I want to ask you. Let me just find them here. Okay, so last straight up OMG question. I want to know what your favorite OMG experience was. Like
Ooh.
a show, a video, a gaming moment, anything. Your favorite OMG experience.
Man, I don't know how to pick just one. Like there were so many episodes
Well,
of
list a couple. There's no wrong answers.
like Borderlands 330 was a lot of fun, especially when we had like that stupid episode where we did the
Southern accents.
oh yeah, the southern accents. It was
Yeah.
retarded, but
It was.
it was fun, and you know we had some people commenting and stuff, and that made it funnier. But that was really cool, and like just being stupid and making these like taglines that have kind of stuck, like my intro and like the ain't scared never been scared, that happened on a game that wasn't even that fun. That was Minecraft
I know.
Dungeons.
I know.
like
I know.
like I didn't even like that. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't like that was my favorite game. But that episode was just funny.
Yeah.
And um you know, obviously, like I talked, I really like the build videos, getting to do those. But, and I think one of the most unique things we did was how we turned Monster Hunter World co-op into a competitive Let's Play. That
Yeah.
or cooperative, I guess.
Co-opetition is what we call
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually, I think, one of the coolest things I've been involved in, from the standpoint of we made a competition out of a game that is
Yeah.
totally PvE, you know.
Yeah. That's one of the most unique shows I've ever participated in, and I'm still most proud of that, just because of all the editing that went into every one of those episodes was way more challenging than my standard Let's Play stuff. Especially the one episode that we did a gauntlet side by side,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. That was a really fun show to just kind of see what we could do. So those are all great answers, man. Great answers. All right, two more questions, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Nope, and they're
All
both
right.
fun ones. They're both fun ones. First one. First one. If somebody was to make a game for you right now, if somebody out there is making a game just for you, what is it? What does that look
Oh,
like?
okay. So it would either be post-apocalyptic or what's it called where there's a name for this. Like what do you call Cyberpunk's world? Like it's not apocalyptic, it's
I think you just like it's cyberpunky. I don't know what it's called
there
because it's not steampunk. It's
no, there's like a word for like it's when like it's I can't even think
I
of
can't
it.
think of the word
Let's just
either.
call it post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
So whether it be a
Dystopian?
wasteland,
Are you thinking about
yes,
dystopian?
dystopian.
There
Yeah,
it
thank
is.
you.
I
So
knew
yeah,
it'd come to me after we moved on.
so it would either be post-apocalyptic, dystopian, or just straight up like Star Warsy, like sci-fi, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
So one of those three genres, because I have always liked the feel of of the world that you could build around those.
Okay.
It would have to have a good storyline, like tell a story start to finish, and have an end game loop that is done correctly, which most games seem to drop the ball on in one way or the other. But have a loop that's engaging and rewarding. And then you know what I think is it has to be I want character creation and customization in those character classes. So like I think Biomutant seems to do that in a very interesting way. Obviously, the game isn't out quite well. It will be by the time the show releases, but
Yes,
uh,
yes. Well,
and I
well
don't.
in the past.
Yeah, I don't want. I would like multiplayer, like co-op. It doesn't have to be competitive. It can have competitive aspects. That's fine too, but I really want the customization. So I want skill trees and I want loot. Now, what I think I'm realizing about myself though is I don't necessarily want it to be. I would like it to be a shooter. First or third person doesn't really matter to me.
Okay.
Um, but it doesn't have to be a looter shooter. Like I'd be okay with it being um like a looter in the sense that I know where this particular gun like is going to be found. I mean, I don't know right away, but I can find it and it's always there,
Okay.
in every playthrough. But then I want weapon customization so that I could be like, okay, I want this rifle. That means if I kill this super hard boss or whatever, I'm gonna get this rifle. But then I'm gonna build this rifle to be based around crit damage. So I'm gonna be able to take that rifle and change some parts and stuff. So it's unique to me. I mean, obviously, someone else could do the same thing, but that idea is unique to me.
Right.
So the way I am thinking about that is where looter shooters tend to. I used to think that was what I wanted was looter shooter, but the grind is always so RNG based that it can take the fun out of it eventually. Like it's great if you get what you're looking for when you're looking for it or in a reasonable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But when grind has a 0.1% chance of being what you want and you just can't get those dice to roll your way, it starts to become monotonous. And for me, I lose a little bit of the fun because I don't want the grind to be the loop. I
Right.
want I want the loop to be engaging on its own merit and the grind to be acquiring things to make that loop more efficient.
Okay.
So that way I can truly make my builds and it be um, uh, being able to have a wide open, let's call it meta, where it doesn't end up being pigeonholed into you have to use this, or this to be efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to customize every aspect to make my tank be just as efficient as your glass cannon build, but in different ways.
All right. That is awesome, and I completely understand where you're coming from on all of those. All right, last question. Super quick. What's your always and your never genres? So you'll always try a game in X genre, but you'll never try a game in X genre. What are they?
I will always try um, a loot focused shooter, and I will never ever try to. Well, I shouldn't. Like super open worlds. They're not
Mm,
for me. Like
okay.
Skyrim, it's just not for me. But I've been coming around to some open world games as long as they're
Focused.
uh, somewhat focused. I need a little bit of a. I don't need you to hold my hand and walk me start to finish, but I need an objective of some sort that I know I'm working towards. I don't want to get lost in the story. Like or lost in side stuff and totally lose focus of the story. So nothing too super open, and I will never ever touch like sim type games like I don't know what would you
Like,
call like Animal Crossing a sim type game?
I don't know if I'd call Animal Crossing a sim type game, but I understand that's almost like a farming simulator, even though it's not a farming simulator. But I know what you're talking about. You're
I,
talking
I
about like Harvest Moon and so that one Valley game that's independent, or The
Stardew
Sims,
Valley, yeah, I will
Stardew
never
Valley.
play those games. I won't play Sims. I won't play. It's just not for me. And I
I get
know
it.
there is a huge market for it. It's just not my.
Not your cup of tea.
Yeah, I think it's just because with both those answers, it's because I have such a limit. I don't have 8 hours a day to play games, you know?
Right, right,
So I just want to get the most fun and the most out of what game I have to throw on for 2 ish
right.
hours a night when the kid goes to sleep and, you know.
Oh, I get it. I get it. All right, well, Phil, man, thanks for doing this, and thanks for letting the people out there get to know you a little bit better, buddy. Is
Yeah,
there
no problem. It was
is there
fun.
is there anything specific you want to add to this interview before I sign it off for you?
Um, I am currently like not super excited for anything that's like coming out right now. There's a couple on my radar that I'm like, oh, I want to see how this goes. I kind of am a little bit burned by a few games that I got really excited for. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at a couple, like I'm looking at Biomutant and stuff like that, and I'll play a little bit of everything. But I right now all I personally have going is I plan on Warzone is in a decent spot right now because the meta's wide open. They've been doing a halfway decent job for that company of supporting the game as of recent.
Hmm.
So I will plan on doing some more. I enjoy streaming, so I'll plan on streaming a little bit more of Warzone coming up in the future. So if you're interested in that, check that out. And also, we still have our Outriders 330 going. So if you're interested in watching some of that, then you know where
Yes.
to find it.
And those have been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying doing those. It's definitely been a nice change of pace from the slog that was the end of Godfall. Um, but yeah, you can check out, just like Phil said, you want some more Philbilly in your life, you can check him out here on Fridays on Outriders 330. And then I think it's fair to say roughly every 2 weeks you do the Warzone stream on Saturday nights around 10:15 Eastern time, correct?
Yeah, and I might try to get a couple hit or miss weekly ones
Okay.
in during the week just so you guys can see me and my crew play without so many sweaties because the weekends definitely bring it up to a new level as far as how sweaty those lobbies can get.
You do get a lot of views on those streams too.
Yeah, they're
Those
fun.
streams are great. So, all right. Thank you, Phil, so much for doing this and being part of the channel for all these years, man. We couldn't have done it without you. Seriously. We appreciate everything you brought into the table.
No
Um,
problem.
and yeah, so I'm not sure which order I'm going to put this in. I will either be back to end the show or be back with the interview for Neil in just a minute.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello! So, as mentioned, we're doing the Foundation for interview episode. You guys love the interview episode so much with the community, and I think I said all this in the Philbilly interview, but hey, it gets said again. So right now, sitting with me is the other Foundation member. I think technically the newest Foundation member, but no less important Foundation member, and he is the Tiny Wizard. He is the man who put Crunchy into the world. He is the podcast co-host. Neil, aka Tiny Wizard, welcome, man.
Why, hello.
It's weird to welcome you to your own podcast in a way.
Well, I mean, it's not my podcast.
Aw, I think at this point it's ours. You're my co-host. I mean,
Yeah.
true, the
Yeah.
podcast lives and dies with me, but I think if we were putting down percentage of stock, you'd be around 45% for the podcast at least.
Well, yeah, that's kind of funny. I wonder. I think I'll get into it whenever we actually get into the actual questions. But the whole story of the podcast is weird for me.
Yes.
I guess.
I think everything about the podcast stuff is weird with you. You know, I've got a lot of questions, but I do just want to like go into a little preamble. And since we're only doing two of you, I figured we could do a little bit longer on each one of you. One thing that I explained this with the Philbilly, but what it means to be a Foundation member is that while yes, the channel is mine, I operate the channel, I run the channel. A Foundation member is somebody who I cannot do the channel without. They contribute a ton of work and time to the channel, and theoretically, if we were to ever make money, they would share in the profits. That's how I look at the Foundation members. You are a Foundation member, sir, and you are a Foundation member in the weirdest way possible because I think I only started this podcast because of something I said to you, and then I ended up starting it with another guy.
And you know what's funny about that too is I remember that conversation because you and I would always like have the long-winded comments back and forth on Facebook because for anyone who doesn't know, Zach and I worked together about 8 years ago, something like that.
Yes.
And then he got a new job, and then I moved away. But like we always talked about gaming stuff on Facebook. He would post something, I would post something. We would get into these long-winded to the point that if you like tap the load more, your entire phone screen is the whole comment, and it would be like last sometimes entire days.
Big debates. Yes.
Yeah, and I remember when you had said something. It was like, you know what? I'm gonna start a podcast. We should start a podcast. It's called Old Man Gaming, and I still like this. It's funny, and I kind of feel dumb now, because it's such a big part of my week, every single week of every month of the year. But I remember when you had brought that up, I was like, yeah, sure, haha. I'm like, I didn't think it was ever gonna happen. Honestly, I didn't like.
Right. Well,
I was just like, yeah.
In fairness, when I brought it up to you the first time, I did not have a channel yet.
Yeah.
I was like, we should do a podcast because I was very into listening to podcasts. I wasn't into doing it. And I kind of meant it as a throwaway comment. Like, we should totally do a podcast, And then, I forgot about that conversation for a very long time. And then I started a channel. The original goal of Old Man Gaming did not work whatsoever. It kind of went defunct for a few months. And then Logan, the whole idea of Old Man Gaming was that I was an old cranky guy and Logan was young and optimistic, and that would be the kind of clash of the podcast. And then we decided to do a podcast, and once we started it, I remember distinctly you, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take your interview time, I just want the context
You're
on the
fine.
other side. You were one of the first people to like it and to comment on it. Not saying that, hey, you did a podcast without me, but when you did, when you were like, liked it and shared it and were like really into it, I was like, fuck. I totally said I was going to do a podcast with him. And then, lo and behold, slowly but surely, Neil commented on every one of our episodes. He chimed in, and then he got onto the show. Then we had a 3-person show for a while, and then Logan wanted to go a different route, and here we are.
I feel bad now because I'm like a permanent member of the show. Now
Yes.
Kev is the only one pretty much, keeping the comments alive on a regular basis. I mean, other people comment too,
They
but
do. We've had some new community members too, Jason and Danny, who have really helped the Discord and comments. Backhanded thank you to them. They've been really helpful on like that kind of stuff. Seatown's been getting in there too, so we've been getting some comments. Kevin's not completely alone now. Although a video without a Kevin comment worries me, still to this day. All right, so let's get into the meet and greet. Oh man, I can't believe this game.
That is yes. Oh man, anytime you go to use that phrase, every time.
I can't. I've been avoiding that phrase like the plague, and then I say it on your interview. There's some nostalgia for everybody. It's a nostalgia-heavy episode, I guess. All right, so this is the question. I like to start everybody off. Everybody I've started out with so far. So I'm gonna do the same for you, man. What's your the first memory of your experience with gaming, which I'm sure we've discussed on the podcast at some point, but for the sake of the interview, what's your first experience with gaming?
Well, you know what? I think I can take it a little bit of a different route. I've mentioned before that my very first experience with gaming was Super Mario World.
Yes.
That was the first game that I beat as well, and I remember too. I finished this game. And I'm running to my mom, who's like doing her hair in the bathroom or something like that. And I was like, "Hey, I beat the game! And it's like the parents are like, "Oh, okay, cool, whatever. I'm doing my thing." But I remember too, like I don't remember that is every single component of that. So I think the first to just take this question in a different direction a little bit, the first gaming experience that I remember completely all the way through is Star Fox 64. And yeah, that was my first experience with Star Fox. I
love that
and
game.
I remember every single morning, especially on weekend mornings, like Saturdays and Sundays, waking up at like 7 o'clock in the morning and just going downstairs and playing. And, because I really only played it like that, on the Saturdays and Sunday mornings, it took me a little bit longer to beat the game because, there's only, depending on the way that you play through it, there's only like 6 or 7 levels, something along those lines. Yeah, I remember every single aspect playing through that and Andros scaring the ever-living bejesus out of me. That is terrifying for an E-game. But yeah, it's Star Fox 64 is the one that I remember all the way through.
One of these days, we're going to have to do a tight 30 on Star Fox 64 because I hands down believe that's the most underrated 64 game, and I personally think it's the best 64 game to ever come off that system. So we will.
And it's a launch title too, isn't it?
Yes, it was. Cause, I've beaten that game every way you can beat that game, but I don't want to spend. We've already done so much pre ramble. I don't want to spend because the whole interview is going to end up about Star Fox 64. All right, so let me move on. So I want to do. What's your favorite person to play with? I know you're not a huge multiplayer gamer. Like you're not a multiplayer sort of guy for the most part. But who's your favorite person or people to play gaming with? Like who's your go-to?
Well, I would say that what was that?
No wrong answers.
No wrong answers.
I said it repeatedly with Philbilly too. You guys don't have to suck up to me at all.
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, especially now, my wife. It's fun finding a game that she and I can both play together, though it's tough because we have different tastes. But we went through all of the Halos together. We went through Borderlands. She didn't play Borderlands 3. She wasn't that big a fan of Borderlands 2 for some reason. But yeah, anything that we can find, even if it's just like trading off on a single player game, it's always great with her because I can present to her something that's like, hey, this is something that I enjoy, and I want you to see, what I can see in this and see her reaction from it. Because sometimes, like I did try to get her to play Undertale, but I don't think she necessarily. She didn't exactly get like what was going on. Plus, I kind of ruined everything for her because I beat the game like 7 times in a row within the course of a month in front of her. So she kind of she kind of was already expecting some of the stuff.
Right.
But I think also before her, a friend of mine, Henry, whom I met in college, and my other buddy Rob too, we used to run Halo all the time. All the time. I got nearly all of my rank in Halo 4 and Halo Reach playing with those two. But like outside of that, like you'd mentioned, I don't do much in the way of multiplayer.
Right.
And I gotta say too, I know you said no kissing ass, but anything that you and I play through on a Let's Play, anything like that, it gives it a completely different perspective, and it's like as we've been playing through Halo. Like I said, I just recently, about a year or so ago, played through all the Halo games with Kayla for the first time. And now, like, I'm going through them again and experiencing all the frustrating parts at the same time as you and everything like
Yeah.
that. And once we get to the later games, too, provided my laptop doesn't explode, I think I'm gonna get some like that same sort of feeling that I got like playing with Kayla, playing with you, seeing
Yeah.
your reaction to those later games.
Yeah, definitely. I will say I love the Let's Plays with you because like when I do the Let's Plays with Phil, they're great, but doing them with Phil is almost like an improvised. It's like its own separate podcast that's 30 minutes we're also playing a video game, which is awesome. I love it. We're
Yeah.
very clinical on it. We make some jokes. We're funny. It's a lot of fun, but we're also very clinical about it. With you, it's unmitigated silliness,
Oh
and
yes.
and that like I laugh so hard through all of those that just makes my day every time we do it. So. All right. Well, you know what? That brings me to my next slightly egotistical question. Although not as egotistical since you are a foundation member and you're just as responsible. Well, not just as responsible, but close to. What's your favorite OMG experience? Your favorite OMG experience? Making content or playing games or whatever with Old Man Gaming. What's your favorite experience with the channel so far?
You know what? I think with the channel as a whole, I remember it was the first terrible talk that I put up. And because it was my first experience with editing video, anything like that. And it turned out all right. It didn't turn out exactly like what I wanted it to be. I think the one that was the closest to like, I wouldn't call it perfection, but like what I had in my mind putting forward and the end result was crunchy.
Yeah.
That one, I loved doing that. I love the stupid, dumb things. It's really unfortunate too that like my whole house life situation happened when it did because I have there was a period of time in the lead up to that I was just planning opening bits like to any sort of video and like having that dumb visual element that has nothing to do with anything. But like that it's really doing those has kind of broadened me like as not just like gaming is just like a thing that you can do to have fun, whatever. It is a conversation, not necessarily just a hobby.
Right.
It's something that can stand on its own. Like you don't have to necessarily be playing games or a quote unquote gamer to be able to talk about games, especially how the medium has been presented.
Well, and you're kind of asking one of my personal questions for you ahead of time. So we'll just segue right into it. It is well known that while you play video games, obviously, you don't play nearly as much video games as myself or Philbilly or even some of our community members. But you are just as knowledgeable and into gaming as any of us. And I have to ask what brings you back to the subject of gaming to learn about gaming and everything, even beyond like not playing it as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what it is for me is I I've always been a gamer. I've referred to this in the it was in the Lost interview episode that didn't
Mm-hmm.
go up. What was it,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
There's a picture
Still
of
really
me
bummed about that.
somewhere. Ah, it's all right. We can reuse the format later. Recycling. Um, but yeah, I have somewhere a picture of me like 3 years old, holding a Super Nintendo controller, just happy as a clam. I I've always been a gamer through
Right.
and through, and I remember even telling people back when I was like 9, 10 years old, like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? A video game tester and designer. Even though that's like that exact title is not a thing. Testing, yeah, okay, but like a just video game designer. I mean, there's like, different aspects of it for the designing. But anyways, um I've always loved it, but the problem like for me is I've just have so much in my life in general, even when like things are just like calm for the most part, or quote unquote normal, that like I can't bear to use all of my time just for gaming. When I
Oh,
was,
yeah, I get that. Philbilly's
yeah,
like that too. I'm more wondering about the you're so interested in the news part of things. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, no, that's well, I was kind of getting to that. It's
Mm-hmm.
my that is my way to still be a part of that conversation, even though I can't necessarily jump in on the newest, latest thing. Because I feel like that's kind of part of my reason as to why I never really got into like multiplayer games, games of
Mm-hmm.
service. Because when those things started to become more mainstream, I mean, outside of the ones that I was already playing going into those,
Mm-hmm.
that was about the time when I was, going from being, high school slash early college into like quote unquote adult.
Right.
So it was just like one of those, my focus changed, but no matter what, like even when I don't play anything, can't play anything outside of Halo, us recording Halo,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been able to play anything for like 3 weeks. I had bought that Everhood game and I got like 2 hours into it, but I haven't been able to do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, barring this past week, which I just had a quick conversation about, barring this, barring this past week, um, I am always every single day before I go to bed. Like some people like scroll YouTube, scroll the news, like real like adult news. I have like my gaming news app that I just scroll through, and that's where I get all of my odds and ends. That's where I find out about the
Yeah.
big things. And there's a couple YouTube channels too that I follow that cover the newsy sort of things. Jim Sterling's one of the ones that I've mentioned before, one of the
Mm-hmm.
big ones. But yeah,
Okay. That's a good answer. It's a great answer. Let me get a little bit serious for a second, and I want to ask you, what was a time in your life where gaming had a positive impact on you? Whether it was like a stress relief or a way to talk to somebody that you hadn't been able to talk to for a while, or something that helped you deal with something. No wrong answers here, and you don't have to get too, you know, serious if you don't want to. But when was gaming a positive impact on your life?
I think in general, I've always looked to gaming more so whenever I have to shut things out. Saying it like that makes it sound like very mentally unhealthy. but
Not to me. Not to me.
but I know, especially like when I was in high school early on, that sort of, even when I was even younger, like if I have something going on in my life and I can't deal with it, I usually would go to gaming. Like if it's something that I have no control over, I can't do anything about, outside circumstances, I'd go to gaming for. In fact, that's actually what kind of led to my resurgence back into like even tabletop gaming and stuff like that, back into D&D and everything, because I learned how to play D&D even in college. I came to it late, and then I dropped out of it for like 9 years, and then I came back to it. But yeah, with gaming in general, that's always been my little comfort base. Especially weirdly enough, Skyrim is the one that I go to when I really need to just shut down. I have certain games that I go to for certain things. If I just need to blank out, I'll play Tetris. If I need to just kind of be chill and meditate, I'll go to Skyrim, stuff like that. But yeah, overall, the my playing games in whatever form it is, be it like actual like video games, be it tabletop games, anything like that, that's what I've always gone to kind of balance out myself in my mental state.
Gotcha. It's Streets of Rage 4 for me lately. Okay, so let me go through my little notepad here. So we've already discussed what a Foundation member is for Old Man Gaming. And Foundation member makes it sound weird, like you're paying some sort of money. You're not. What being Foundation is. But what does it mean to you personally, and how has it affected you personally, just in the time that you've been with the channel?
Well, I'll tell you, there's sometimes, and I know you can attest to this. It's been difficult sometimes to line our schedules up.
Yes, it has.
But at the same time, as I've said that, like outside of like some rare instances, like I always am like I have to do the podcast for the week, for sure. Like I absolutely always have to do the podcast because it's like an outlet for me. And I found that with the channel and everything, like I now have something that I can focus on that is not work or school, that is like somewhat, regimented to some degree. We have our schedule, our every third Wednesday or so we do Halo or whatever, and if it works out that way. Or every single Sunday / Monday / well, we're doing Sunday for this episode that's going to come out on next Sunday, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's always been, for me, it's been something that, moving, it's just a thing that is a part of my life that I'm glad it's a thing. If God forbid something ever happens and you're just like, you can't do it anymore, you don't want to do it anymore, I would be sad. I think that it's given me enough motivation though to potentially like, either spin this off if you ever did anything. I'm not telling you. It's like, oh, I'm quitting. I'm doing my own thing. Screw you.
This interview has terrible implications all of a sudden.
I realized as I was saying that, I was like, wow, it really makes it sound like I'm just like using you as a stepping stool.
No. If you or Philbilly did decide to go off on your own, I would wish you the best of luck. Just like I did when Logan decided to just do streaming by himself. That's not what this is. And I don't know that I'll be able to do this forever. I don't know. I want to be. I do tell people anytime I'm stressed out about it, I'll be complaining. They'll be like, it's just you don't make money off of it, do you? And I was like, no, not yet. And they're like, well, why don't you quit? And I was like, if I did, Neil and Philbilly would kill me.
And that's something to think about that I thought about too. Is like, I've we've talked about it multiple times on multiple episodes. I've actually like put money into this to some
Yeah.
degree,
Yeah.
and it's like, and
Same here.
it wasn't anything. Yeah, it wasn't anything like, like, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. No, he didn't. He didn't tell me that I had to spend money, but it's made me care enough about something to go that extra mile. Like even me building my PC, I've talked about wanting to do that for years,
Right.
but like especially now that we do stuff with the channel. Apparently, my laptop turns into a rocket every third Wednesday. Like that sort of stuff has made me want to make other decisions and do other things. And honestly, at least where I am right now, how the channel is, if we started making money tomorrow and it was something like, oh well, you would pull in, like, let's say the channel would pull in like $100 for the whole month or something like that in ad revenue or something like that. I don't know how
I don't
monetization
know.
works in YouTube, but I honestly would be okay at that point for just like, y'all just split it in half.
Right.
If you guys wanted to do that, because
You
that's
you are a sweet person, but that's not how we would do that. We would definitely get together and decide where the money is most smart to go, and everybody would be able to get a share if they wanted to. And I do want to say that is one of the things that makes you and Philbilly Foundation members is you guys have gone out and spent hard-earned money on things for this channel, which makes me sweat and very anxious.
Yeah, I saw Phil has a Yeti now, so I don't want to hear nothing from nobody about having good microphones.
The mic off begins. The mic off begins between you and Philbilly. The rivalry starts. All right. Okay, so I want to do just a couple of fun questions to finish us off, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
The first one is, hypothetically, there is a developer out there right now. They are making the perfect Neil game. What does that look like?
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I mean, you would probably hate it. You would probably absolutely hate it.
Probably.
I think that the perfect game for me would be some sort of fast-paced action linear story game
Okay.
that would be done in probably 8 to 10 hours tops.
Okay.
I,
All
I
right.
think that would be the perfect thing, because that's
Yeah,
the
I'd
one
hate
thing
that. I'd hate
that's
every
like,
inch of it.
yeah,
Well,
I was about to say, you would hate every inch of that.
I wouldn't hate it if it wasn't like a gazillion dollars. Like if it was like a full price game and it was like 8 hours, I'd be like, okay, that's a little ridiculous, man, right now. But
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
I probably that would not be one that I would just jump into unless it was on Games Pass.
My big thing is, like, because my time is somewhat limited when I do get to play games, I want something that I can experience the complete package with the time that I have. Now,
Right.
granted, there's some outliers. I did finish Final Fantasy VII Remake in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Granted, that happened during the pandemic peak when everything was shut down, so I had all the time in the world to do it. But I don't like the idea of like having a game that I really been looking forward to and absolutely love playing, but I can only put a grand total of 2 hours a week into it, and then, oh, there's something else coming out. Do you play that? Do you finish what you have? This, that, and the other. I just like something I can get in and out quick on.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Uh, and might I just say you were probably one of the quickest answers on that question ever. So many, everybody else usually took at least a good like 4 minutes on it.
That's ironic. One of the
Yeah.
most long-winded.
I know. I was expecting you to talk the most, and you talked the least on that one. Okay, and then final is a fun one. What is your always never? And this is, what's your always genre? You'll always try one of X game, but you will never try X game, no matter how much people pay you. What are your always and never games?
Oh, never, ever, ever in a million years keep WoW and any sort of MMO like that
Okay.
away from me.
All right.
Like,
All right. That's a good answer.
Will give I will give an MMO a chance to some degree, but at the same time, I did not like Fallout 76. I don't know if you would count that as an MMO, but
I don't know if I count that, but like World of
Elder
Warcraft and
Scrolls
stuff
Online,
yeah.
Elder Scrolls Online. That was the first game that we bought for our Xbox One when we got it. I was so hyped for that game.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I put 2 hours into it when it first came out, or when we first got it, that is. And I thought, like, maybe I'm just not feeling it, because that's how I was with Skyrim when it came out.
Right.
And then I gave it another 5 hours of hate playing is the only thing that I can think of. Just me sitting there forcing myself to play it. It's like, it's gotta be. I can't imagine after Skyrim that I just don't like this. And then I came to find out that it was the actual MMO aspect of it.
Right.
I think the thing that turned me off to WoW the most, I used to work out on a cruise ship, and when I was out there, there was a group of gamers that I hung out with, and one of them, when we were at port, connected to the internet and played WoW, and he set up something, and like he put in a few keystrokes and then got up and walked away, and his character was just going. I'm like, dude, you're just like flying off into wherever. And he's like, oh yeah, it takes a while to get there, but you can make it so that the game, so you like fly like that. And he's
right.
like, I'm like, so there's like no fast travel or anything? And I just, like, at that point, I can't even remember what his answer was. There might be fast travel or something, but it's like, oh yeah, the game that plays itself. Yeah, no, thank you. I want no part of that, sir.
Okay.
And my always, I don't know, I'll probably always try a Final Fantasy game, but
okay.
I don't know if that necessarily, like, I'm trying to think of a broad category.
There's no wrong
probably
answers, buddy. No wrong answers.
Yeah. RPG. Let's go with just RPG. I think I would always give an RPG a try.
It is interesting that you said that you would always give an RPG a try when your perfect game was an 8 to 10 hour quick twitch action game.
That's the thing. Is like, my perfect game would be something that I can get through, because like I remember Final Fantasy 15 in the lead up to that. I played both demos. I remember I dumped, it was 15 to 20 hours into the first, it was the Final Fantasy 15 episode to Sky demo that came with Final Fantasy Type 0. I played the ever living crap out of that demo. And I played the crap out of Final Fantasy 15 also, but, you know, same with everything else. I just ran out of time for it. And that's the thing is, I don't necessarily always have the time, or, you know, something else happens that takes my takes my attention. I don't know. Maybe I'm like ADHD or something like that.
All right. Well, Neil, man, I do. Is there anything you want to add to this interview in any way, shape, or form before I move on?
You know what? I'm glad that I am able to do this. Like I said before, like it's just the weird way that this came about, at least given our exchange with it and its development into what it became.
Yeah.
I remember the day that you had asked, well, you didn't even ask me, actually. You just kind of said at the end of one episode, it was one of the earlier episodes, like a 30s or 40s episode, something like that. You had just said at the end, it's like, yeah, you're a permanent member now. So yeah, I'm like, oh, I did the thing. And then I think I asked for a job title.
Yeah. The first time you were on the show, it was one of the crazy ones where Logan just like overslept. So I literally like messaged you out of nowhere on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I know I kind of stole our idea to do this podcast, and I understand if you're gonna say no, but can you get on Zoom and do the podcast with me?"
You know what's extra wild? What's extra wild too, I think I still have the notebook around here somewhere. When we had the conversation about me being on the very first time, like as a guest, I was at work and I got a break. I literally went to Walmart and bought a notebook and pen and wrote 2.5 pages worth of notes.
There you
and
go.
now
First money spent.
Well, now look on it. It's like if I tried to take notes of everything I wanted to say, I would be much more concise. But holy
Yeah.
shit, in an hour and a half, we're not getting through all of that. And I think that's just like the development of where everything started and where it is now. Like the channel's what, 2.5 years old at this point.
Yeah, we're getting up
Uh,
there.
it's
Yeah.
it's wild to just see the progression of it. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad. I'm really glad that I get to do this, even though it's like not for money. It's just for shits and gigs, and that's all you need sometimes.
Well, we're really glad you do it with us, man. And like I said, I couldn't do it with you without you or Philbilly. Like, you guys make the channel possible, in my opinion. And I appreciate everything you do for it. And I do want to
Oh,
tell
thank you.
everybody out there, if you've liked what Neil has said today, you can check him out every Thursday on Halo Infinite Road. That's where we are playing through the Halo games, which we have talked about copiously in this interview. And they're roughly about 20 to 30 minute let's plays, and they are absolute silliness while you're watching Halo, and I highly recommend them. You will laugh. And you can also, of course, check him out on the podcast here. He is my co-host, my esteemed co-host weekly. So please check him out on that. And there will definitely be shows in the future. He did Streets of Retro with me, where we played through all of the Streets of Rage games back in the day, or most of them, because Streets of Rage 3 is really hard. And
Look,
then,
we played through it. We played through it. We got to the
kinda.
end of something. That's all that. That's all that matters.
Something. We're definitely gonna do something for the DLC release, and I'm just gonna tease it because I don't know when, but we're definitely gonna be doing something with the Super Mario Party Online at some point in the future once Neil's life has calmed down a little bit. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Neil. I appreciate it. I don't know what order this is going to be in, so I'm either going to be back with Philbilly or I'm going to be back to end the show in just a minute.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, that's it. You have gotten to know the two Foundation members, other than myself, a lot better than you used to. And I do just want to take a little time right here to just say to both those two gentlemen that I couldn't do this without them. They're integral to this channel, and they have been with me since nearly the beginning and the longest of anybody. And when other people have quit or walked away, they've been steadfast, both of them. And I know I have difference of opinions with both of them, but at the end of the day, I can't say I have better friends than the two of them, as well as colleagues in this grand adventure of a YouTube gaming channel. So I just want to personally say I hope they take this episode as I know we kind of had to do this on the fly, but I hope they take this episode as kind of like a tribute to them, because Philbilly 330, Neil aka Tenno Wizard, I couldn't do this stuff without you guys. I thank you so much for being there with me through the ups and all the downs. So many downs. And I hope you guys stick with me for many years to come. All right, everybody else, you can contact us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. You can influence us in all of our shows. You can also possibly be on one of these interview shows or game with us on some other games. We like to pick people from our community to play with all the time. So please click subscribe, and you guys, if you don't mind sticking with us for a little bit longer, we're just gonna get bigger. As long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next time.